Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, California Weather Watch. Today is January 25th, and right now we are looking at the mid-level water vapor loop. We got the state of California, Hawaiian Islands to the bottom left, and this is the initial atmospheric river headed for the Pacific Northwest. But what everybody wants to talk about here is the potential for the storm track to return to the state of California, and we're going to dive into those details as we go through the video here this morning. But in the short term, we're going to have some high pressure build over interior areas, some offshore flow, and we're going to warm things up for a few days before the big frontal system gets here, and then we'll take a look off into the extended. And just a heads up, there is that heavy rain potential next week. You're going to see a lot about this on social media if you haven't already, so check back daily here for the latest. Now, looking at this Arc Storm 2.0, so basically this would be a series of atmospheric rivers that could produce substantial flooding across much of the state of California. Check out Dr. Daniel Swain and his literature on that event. And there's also the USGS has an overview of the Arc Storm scenario as well. If you want to know more about that, go ahead and Google for that. Looking over the past few days, January 20th through the 25th, you can see we've had some pretty healthy rainfall amounts across portions of Northwest California, even out towards Shasta Lake and Redding. And as we go down a bit further south towards the Bay Area, some pretty big amounts out there. As you can see, we didn't do too bad those last couple of rounds. And look at Santa Cruz and just to the south of San Jose. If we look down towards Southern California as well, a lot of areas up over 2 inches, plenty of them up over an inch as well. Santa Barbara 2.5, and of course San Diego, its rainiest January day ever recorded at this location. Now, just a heads up, there is still some hazardous surf through Friday afternoon. You can see some of the elevated wave heights out there as well. Some minor coastal flooding is possible. And we're also going to warm things up, as I mentioned here. And you can see Southern California. You look at this by Saturday. I mean, you're starting to get up into the low 80s for some areas. More on that here in a moment. And we'll start looking at that now, actually. And you can see the European. If we put this into motion, you'll clearly see the high pressure building over the Great Basin here. And that's going to kick some offshore winds, but a Santa Ana wind, some gusty winds with that. And we're going to warm things up a bit before that storm track starts to return as we go through the early portion of next week. Lots more on that here in a bit. Looking at 100-meter wind speeds, I just want to kind of show you that we're going to start to reverse the flow here and kick things offshore. And you can kind of see it coming through the gaps as it typically does. Some offshore winds see much of the state here as we go through the weekend. So yeah, that'll be the cause of the warm up before the storm train starts to return here as we go through the extended forecast. Looking at relative humidity, I like to show this when we get Santa Ana winds. Also, you can see as we scroll off in towards Friday, we start drying out, and you can see some of this dry air flowing back up over the open ocean as we go on in through Friday into Saturday there. So yeah, there could even be some local areas. There's always fire trouble here across California, no matter what time of year, if you dry things out enough. So heads up for that. Taking a look at the daily max 2-meter temperature. So this will be for Friday. As we go into Saturday, you can see things warming up, especially across Southern California here. And look at this, all the way up the valley, potentially some low 70s to be had. Monday, not bad. Tuesday, and then we start to swoop a next frontal system down across the area, and you'll see things cooling off as we start to bring some active storm systems into the state of California. And if you want a nice, affordable home weather station, click on that link down below to save 10% off. This thing is ultrasonic anemometer, haptic rain gauge, lightning detection system, all solar powered and wireless. Highly recommend that station. Taking a look here. Now, we got the European yesterday afternoon on the right versus yesterday morning. So what's going on here is that we're going to have this southwest flow into the Pacific Northwest for a few days, just battering the Pacific Northwest with some strong storm systems. And then models are in pretty good agreement now as we go through the day, Wednesday and Thursday. Strong frontal system expected to hit California and swoop all the way down through Southern California as well. Then there's a little bit of concern on what's coming after that. Some of the earlier models were actually showing a cooler trough here, but now the models are kind of bouncing back towards bringing another system in through the extended forecast into the state of California. So we're just going to kind of take things one step at a time here, but this frontal system should be a doozy here, and I'm going to show you some of that here coming up, actually starting here. This is the European, the 12Z run. This is hot off the presses. I waited for this video today to put it out a little bit later so we could look at this most recent run. So you can see the atmospheric rivers kind of clipping Northwest California as we go on in through Friday into Saturday. Even a little bit of light rain trying to get down towards the Bay Area here. shouldn't be too big of a deal. The biggest bulk of this precip is moving into the Pacific Northwest. And then we scroll out and you can see we have a bit of a break precipitation as we go through Monday. The storm system starts to approach here, and you can see this powerful frontal system start to impact Northern California at some point Tuesday afternoon, it looks like, maybe Tuesday night. And then look at this frontal system just swooping down the state. Some very impressive rainfall amounts. The good thing with this is that it is fairly progressive. But we still have to watch it. I mean, if this thing hangs up over any given area, it could produce some pretty severe flooding. So anyway, that frontal system swoops down across the area, brings some colder air behind it. Maybe we'll build a little bit of that snowpack up. And then this would be trouble here, folks, if we start to bring another system on the heels of that through the extended forecast. But the models have kind of been waffling back and forth on the strength and the position of this low. And yeah, we'll watch that daily, one thing at a time here. We got a pretty nasty frontal system rolling down the state as we go on into the early and mid portion of next week. Now, looking at the Canadian model, this one's hot off the presses as well. So if we put this into motion, atmospheric river potential moving by and mainly to the north and west, clipping portions of Northern California at times. Bit of a break here as we go through Monday, and the next storm will be wrapping up here and bring its frontal system. The Canadian wants to hang this up a little bit more across some of the Bay Area in Northern California. Then you can see that front propagate down all the way across Southern California. And look at some of these rainfall amounts. Very sinister frontal system here as we go on in towards the end of next week. And then the Canadian also wants to bring another storm system similar to what the European had. That would be trouble here, folks. Once we have things pretty saturated across some of the area, you start bringing storm after storm, and then you can really enhance some of the flooding. This is looking at the European ensemble mean. This is the 10-day precipitation anomaly, and this one is yesterday afternoon. And you can clearly see the wet signal showing up in the European model. This is the GFS. So check out what it said this morning versus what it said yesterday morning. You can clearly see the uptick there in the ensemble mean 10-day precipitation anomaly. So definitely trending a bit stormier here and wetter. Here's the Canadian, clear increase in the signal. Also, this is this morning's run versus yesterday afternoon. Again, 10-day precipitation anomaly. You can kind of see it targeting some of the Sierra Nevada, Southern California, the entire state, really. I mean, the desert areas even getting some rainfall out of this. 6 to 10-day temperature outlook here. Southwest flow. This is to be expected, and much of the USA is above average. But look at that 8 to 14 day. So some signs of that trough setting up here over the state. But again, it depends on what happens after that frontal system and what kind of system follows it. Here's the 6 to 10 day. This should not be a shock to you after watching this video. Much above average here across the West Coast as we go through February 3rd and kind of continuing that trend as we go on in towards February 7th. Looking at the Canadian model on the left, this is ensemble mean there as well. And this goes out all the way through 15 days. And look at some of these totals. This is not a deterministic run that I cherry picked. This is the ensemble mean of the Canadian run yesterday. Here's also the ensemble mean of the European yesterday as well. And you can see pretty good model agreement on some fairly heavy precipitation rolling in here in the next 2-week time period. And of course, risk of heavy precipitation. You can see the Climate Prediction Center has got their experimental products on it high across much of the state. Some risk of heavy snow as well. Again, depending on how cool that trough is and how long it hangs around, we could build up some snowpack across the Sierra Nevada. Risk of some high winds. We're not going to get caught up in that just yet, but that frontal system is going to pack a punch in of itself here with some very strong winds as it moves down the state, with the potential for more systems afterward. So this is average temperature departure from average, and this goes from about Thanksgiving here, November 26th, all the way through January 24th. You can see much of the state has been above average temperature-wise in the last 2 months, and this is the average precipitation since the water year started on October 1st. And there's a few select areas that are above average, but a lot of the state is still below. So at least some of this is going to be beneficial. We just got to watch out on bringing it in too hot and heavy, and then multiple rounds of storms as well could cause some flooding concerns. But for the most part, we still need to bring some precipitation in here, and hopefully we can build some snowpack at some point here as we go through the next month or two. This is the drought monitor. It was actually updated here today, and you can still see we are drought free, just a couple of areas with some abnormally dry conditions. Also, I wanted to show this too. As we went through yesterday morning, we had some pretty good lightning off the coastline here. actually shows over 1,000 strikes. A select few of those were over some of the coastal areas as well, but a pretty prolific lightning producer out over the open ocean. And that is probably due to that very warm water off the coastline. It enhances some of the instability. Let's put it that way. You know, you got that warm water out there. You enhance the low level lapse rates here, and you bring more CAPE, convective veil potential energy, and you can really enhance some of that lightning and some of that thunderstorm activity with any one of these systems moving down the coastline. It's probably going to be the case with that frontal system that rolls down through here as we go on in through Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday timeframe. But yeah, interesting stuff here, folks. The hype machine is already getting rolling here. If you're on Twitter and you saw a lot of that, we had some interesting scenarios brought forth by some people who didn't quite understand what they were talking about. But, you know, you're going to see some of that. So stick to trusted weather sources out there. I can't emphasize that enough. Check back for my daily briefings here. Watch the National Weather Service, and, you know, we'll keep you updated here on what's to come. Anyway, we'll continue to do this. Again, we still have a few days. As you saw, this is not expected to come in until probably Tuesday night, impacting first Northern California, then swooping down the state as we go through Wednesday on into Thursday. So we have a little bit of time out there. Get your ducks in order and, you know, and get yourself organized before the storm system rolls in here. But anyway, hope you guys are liking these videos. We will do this again tomorrow, and I will talk to you guys then.